Welcome aboard the dopamine train, where our ADHD-powered locomotive stops at every shiny thought along the tracks. I'm Obee Won, and with my co-host Rome, we explore various topics and see where the conversation train takes us. Welcome back to the dopamine train, our 10th episode in person, all three of us. Jesse, Rome, wonderful to see you.
Obee Won.
Obee Won.
Good to see you guys.
Good to see you too. And it's weird because now I can't just talk into the computer and into the void, and I'm like watching and looking in your guys' faces. It's a little
And also,
off-putting.
I'm just laying in bed, dreaming of the end.
Oh, here we go. We had to start off with that, right?
We had to start off with that. So the things I wanted to talk about was like how we got to this point a little bit, and wherever we end up kind of our normal style. And
To what point, though?
10 episodes. We have made 10 episodes on a podcast. This is wild.
I've been a part of two. But
Part of two?
Three, I think three actually.
3, because you have episode 2 where it's just you, and then I think it's episode.
Oh, you included that? Just the one with me and you?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's episode 2.
Bro has not watched the podcast.
Honestly, I haven't listened to one of them.
He hasn't been even
Yeah,
listening.
I'm not
he hasn't been
surprised.
helping us our own thing.
He's too busy scrolling through reels to watch anything.
No, I've been too busy.
No.
Starting
Doom
tomorrow,
scrolling.
I'm working 11 days straight.
Wow.
That's pretty sick.
No, it's not sick. They don't give me holidays off. And I told them I'm calling out Christmas.
If you want to remind our audience again,
I'm not going to say where I work.
Can we? Okay.
We said on an episode prior that it involves customer service and dealing with
The public.
people in person on a regular basis, and it can be pretty. I can't think of a word.
Obi-Wan can ask for privacy.
Yeah.
For myself, I'll do that because I have a very normal
Okay.
profession.
I would also like to add this is
Profession in
Technically-
bunny fingers.
this is technically our first video podcast, but I'm just happy I was able to set up the camera. I don't know if it's actually going to
I
see the
say
light
you
of day.
release it, but just his entire body blurred.
He's
Obi-Wan's
blurred out the
body
entire
blurred
time.
out.
Just have me blurred out. It's fine. Y'all
More
can
editing
agree.
to do.
I'm
Y'all-
playing with the camera right now. I'm just like I'm doing the
Yeah. I mean, do it. You've got the lighting now set up.
But yeah,
I'm doing the Riz face,
10 episodes. This is like, to me, 10-year anniversary almost.
which never happened for our school.
Again, back to the reunion that we referenced in episode 1.
Yeah.
How come they never did that? They're just like, man, your class is lame as shit.
I think
there's
go
too
ahead.
many. There's just too many things at that school that they got to worry about. Then again, I also don't know who is in charge of doing it for our class, but
It has to be someone specific.
I believe it was the
It was
class
Stemler,
president.
but we haven't seen him
Do
in a
you
while.
want to go quickly get our yearbook and find out?
I have no idea where it is.
Oh, is it in
It's-
some
yeah,
cardboard
Maybe up right
box?
here. It's gonna take,
and,
No, it's not.
yeah. I mean, who knows
man,
where it is?
if we were back in my house, we'd
You guys
actually
didn't
have the
hear
yearbook.
what I said, though. I said, Stemler was in charge, but we haven't seen him for quite a while.
Oh my god.
He was in charge.
He was
I
in
don't-
charge
I
of
don't- I don't
the,
think
of
he was
the
a student
reunion
government.
committee.
I
No
think one of my favorite. I was thinking about this while you guys were on the way over today. Was should we go over to Alex's house? Like, yeah, that's a great idea.
Should we call?
No,
Yeah. There's this whole thing where I went to dinner with Stemler and this other friend of Alex that I don't know if he'd be cool with us talking about him, so I'm not gonna say it.
Yeah, whatever.
His name's Noe, but
Just let me just violate that privacy there, and we have this whole conversation about
he
it.
won't hear this. But
He won't
actually,
hear
he
this.
might. Oh.
I don't know. I mean, it
Well,
doesn't matter. It's
respectfully, we're not
it's
saying anything crazy.
Rude or I think it's more incriminating when you're like, well, I don't know if we should say his name versus if you just say it in a
It's not
normal
setting
way.
up a joke, dickhead.
Apparently, Jesse has had so many comedy classes that we don't knew the art of the joke.
But did you not look? I don't think I should mention him. Well, his name's Noe. Like you don't get the beats in that. Like how that was actually kind of funny. Give me credit.
I get where you're going, but I guess it's hard because I don't know beforehand if you are actually trying to run the joke or if you're being serious.
Well, anyways,
I just have him on Snapchat.
we went to BJ's restaurant in Cerritos to I don't know why, but to go see the. It was the finals. It was like 2016 something when it was
the finals for basketball.
It was Cleveland versus Golden State. They had that same final matchup for like 4 years in a row.
Interesting.
And then they're all like, "Where should we do now?" I'm like, let's go to Alex's house. Oh, that's a good idea. Should we call him? I'm like, no. Are you fucking kidding me?
Like it's an outrageous thing to do.
That is where we go to congregate. That was when I was starting to live away from my parents for that year.
Mm-hmm.
I sort of like lived here for like half that year. Like half the time I would just be here.
It was a good time. A good time.
I mean, not really. There's some pretty shitty things, but like it could have been worse. That's
okay.
life,
It wasn't a good time. My bad.
No, it was a good time, but like we both went through some not so great times.
Yeah,
but like we got through it. That's the whole point in life.
I do think it's better to go through bad times with other people than good times by yourself.
Yeah,
that's interesting. Because like, what's the point of the good times if you don't have anybody to share it with?
Right. I mean, you could
also the bad times remind you of how good the good times were. So when you actually get back to the good times, it feels better.
True. Right. Yeah. How could you have good times unless there's bad?
If they're all good times, and you live in some weird fucking dystopian society where you think they're good, but they're actually shitty for half the
Well, they're not. They can't be qualified as good because they're all the same, right? Like what bad do you have to compare them to? Yeah, because they're just. It's normal.
It's like the gray blobs from Fairly Odd Parents.
The gray blobs.
I haven't seen that.
I didn't have cable growing up.
Me neither.
I just had the antenna.
What a loser.
We went to my grandma's house to watch MTV videos because they had.
Do you remember when our friend Elias referenced his childhood being like Paula Deen? I was like, your childhood sucked.
Who's Paula Deen?
That she's like a Southern lady that makes really unhealthy food, and it came out that she gave herself like diabetes and like heart related. I don't actually know. I know she gave herself diabetes. The heart related stuff, I don't know, but she was making like double fried chicken and like crazy.
No, he was comparing Paula Deen to Panda. I think.
Did I? I think. Remember the Christmas Warzone video you made that we? I think it's in that video where I say his childhood sucked.
I watched it. I think that was a different occasion. I think we were playing Rebirth Island at that point because in the Christmas Warzone video, we're on that Krampus map.
I'm almost hesitant to watch that video with you guys.
Why?
Because that was just like literally right before I was leading into like the worst year of my life. So it's like a throwback to like this weird in between time where I'm kind of okay, but kind of not.
But isn't that cool that you get this evidence of like a reflective point, like this kind of time capsule you can look back on?
2022 was pretty horrible for me.
Fair enough. I'm trying to think.
I thought the world was fucking ending for real for multiple reasons.
I think everybody thought the world was ending back then. I know alcoholism was on the rise.
For you?
In general.
Oh.
In general, what are you going to do at home by yourself or with
2022?
2022?
In 2020, yeah, that was honestly I've said all even number years feel like shit for me for some reason.
So,
starting
this
in
year been shit.
In some senses, yeah. We went through some struggles, but it's not as bad as other years.
So 2023 was better than 2024. Is what your argument is? Yeah,
because I was newly in a new relation. I was like in a new relationship that just started, so it's just kind of like honeymoon. You know what I mean? It's just like there's nothing can go wrong.
I just was curious. So
like, does that make sense?
For the honeymoon phase, or for the even number,
like
odd
even
number
when
years?
shitty things happen during a honeymoon phase of like a new relationship,
everything's great.
It's fuck yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, we'll make it through anything.
No, I was still on the fact that you mentioned even years, bad, odd years, good.
It started in 2020. 2020 was obviously for a lot of reasons. We were all coked up. What else? I don't know. The world felt like it was ending, and then 2022 again. Some personal stuff happened to me, and then also some just world events happened that made life look like it was fucking going to shit. It was just, I don't know. I've said even number of years, the last few years seem pretty shit for me, but maybe that's just me associating things.
For sure. It's like kind of, I feel a lot of the time we look fondly on the past, even if it was really bad. And I don't know if that's like a survival mechanism.
I mean, nostalgia will make anything feel good.
Right.
Like even 2020, I look back, I'm like, oh, there's some good things in there. And like, even though just in general, it seemed like a shitty time for most people.
Like 2020 for me was pretty bad, but also that was the first time I got my own apartment, my own space. And so that was like the first time, I'm paying, everything's on me, not dependent on another person, not another roommate.
Own healthcare?
Huh?
You get your own healthcare that year? Because I just remember distinctly.
I was already on my own healthcare
I wasn't.
for
26, you had to be on your own.
No, but I was gonna say I distinctly remember being like, of course, the year that I have to get off my parents' health insurance is the year
in 2020
that a fucking worldwide health pandemic hits.
But I'm
sound like
also a
such a
year
loser.
older than you,
I have to
Jesse.
finally get off my parents. Oh, you're right. You're a year older.
I'm a
than
year
me.
older, so I was already.
Yeah, I
doing
graduated
I was
early,
I was
guys.
a real adult, as they say. I was paying my own bills, had my own job, and then was living in a studio apartment.
Boomer.
Boomer. God.
I think it's easier to look at something through a positive lens, through nostalgia, well, because that time is already over, and you can kind of summarize what happened, and nothing's going to be added onto it. When you're living in the present, you don't know what's going to happen, so everything is uncertain. Tomorrow could be the end of the world, but after this time goes by, you're going to look back at the highlights and go, "Oh, that was pretty cool. We got to sit down and do a podcast." Like,
And we're gonna eat after this, and we're gonna go buy Pokemon cards, and we're gonna
This is like the 15-year-old's dream.
we're
right
gonna
now.
we're gonna
Yeah.
celebrate our
Stay
Lord
young.
and Savior Luigi.
Lord and Savior Luigi.
How bad would your mom's? I'm wondering what, because I've noticed a lot older people are very
In terms of
their thoughts on what
CEO
happened.
getting killed in the street, I have not talked politics with my folks
Good for you.
because A, there has not been an opportunity to do so. B, do I want to walk through that door? I don't think so. And C, the only thing I really tried to do was try to watch Dawn to Dawn.
What is that?
what's that?
It's a new anime that came out that is supposedly unique and obscure. So the premise of it is one person believes in ghosts, one character believes in aliens, and they both say neither exist, but they both do. And it's just this random thing, and it was a little much for me. Right as they both dare each other to go to like the most haunted place or the most alien place
New Jersey?
New Jersey.
I thought it was Ohio.
Oh.
For the drones. That's funny. And my dad's like starting to watch. Is like, whoever watches this crap is so demented. I was like, what?
I'm trying to think of like old shit that they used to watch that I'm sure we could throw in their face. Like, nah, this shit was demented.
Well, it's kind of what was interesting
Willy
is my
Wonka.
dad's favorite like Christmas cartoon is the claymation stuff. And
I
I'm like,
love Santa Claus is Coming to Town.
that's his one of his favorites. I'm like, what the
Have you
hell pottery nonsense
Speaking of
imagination
anime,
is
did you
this?
see that anime this year that was like, I think Netflix released it, or it was some famous production company partnered with Netflix, and they spent like their entire budget on the first episode, and the first episode is supposed to be like a masterpiece, but like every single episode since looks like a fucking 12-year-old drew it. Like it's like terrible animation. No, you haven't heard about that?
No.
We should look it up.
What is it named?
I don't remember. I thought you would know, bro. You're supposed to be the one that knows all anime.
No, we just know One Piece.
I just know JoJo's Bizarre Adventures.
JoJo's great.
My girlfriend made me watch a bunch of episodes of Death Note.
Death Note's wonderful.
It was pretty good. It caught my attention. We finished. Go ahead.
No, say what you're.
No, because I was gonna move on from anime, but like, let's keep going since you're.
What I like about that one in particular is because the protagonist is actually really the bad guy in reality, and then the antagonist is actually the good guy. But you're actually like for the protagonist who's like just writing things down, murdering people.
Mm-hmm.
I get to the point where the weirdo that's investigating him is becoming like the new hero because the protagonist is becoming too extreme.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember the character names. My girlfriend might hate me for that, but
it's fine. I don't
it was
remember
good.
either. But basically, the premise of the show is there's these death gods, and these death gods have this journal that they can write people's names in. And if they were supposed to die at 80 and they wrote their name in at 50, they get the 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so what sometimes these death gods will do is they'll drop their notebook to the human world. And the human doesn't get that benefit, but gets the power to do so. And so the protagonist is a son of a police chief and starts, well, what if all the criminals died? And so starts writing criminals' names. And then all of a sudden the news is like, why are these criminals dying? Like just from heart attacks, because that's what happens. And so they start investigating this, and it's basically this cat and mouse game of trying to find this kid who's writing these names
And
down.
there's this other character that is kind of young.
I think it's Z.
Yeah, Z. He's like young, and he for some reason like knows that it's some random dude doing it, and he sets up this whole thing where you think it's him talking to the criminal and revealing his name to the criminal, and the criminal writes the guy's name down and kills it, but then it's revealed that it was just some other guy, and he's just like, he's basically knows what's going on. He's setting him up. He's proving that like this motherfucker has a notebook where he writes down your name and kills you.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it was pretty interesting.
Netflix also tried to do a live action film of it that was, in my opinion, terrible. It took place in Seattle. The way they went about it was they made the protagonist kind of like, so in the show, there's another person that has a notebook that's a woman, and the way Netflix portrayed it was like the woman was the mastermind, but in like the anime, it's the other way around, where it's the man who's the mastermind who originally had the first notebook. And so
I looked up that anime. It's called Uzumaki. Like I said, they'll show you. They spent like all their money on the first episode, and the next episode you see characters running, and they're literally like
weird.
It looks like a 12-year-old animated it.
Interesting. Well, I kind of wanted to go back to like how we got to this point of
10 episodes to just share with our audience a little bit about like what it would take to start a podcast in a sense.
I would say the number one thing, be outside of the fact that, I mean, like I already knew kind of how to set the stuff up. I did the research needed to do the technical side, but the most important thing beyond all that was the consistency and the accountability of actually showing up, because you know, there were times where I was like, we schedule it for Sunday, let's do it Sunday. And there were other times where maybe Sunday just, maybe I had a late Saturday night, and you were like, okay, are we recording tomorrow? I'm like, I guess so. And we showed up and we did the work. I think that above all else is the most important thing, is just showing up and doing it.
Sorry, guys. You said that to shame me.
What?
I'm kidding. I said you did that to shame me.
Oh.
But my schedule kind of works completely against
no
doing it every week with you guys.
No, it's all good in that we're happy to have you when you're available, and that's the way we've been operating. But to Roma's point about the accountability part, and it's good accountability, right? Because I've also had people that I've tried to go to the gym with, and then when you're both like, oh, I don't want to wake up in the morning, then it's game over. So
someone has to want to do it no matter what, even if they don't feel like it. So it's huge.
Right. And I think for me, it was the time of day for us. And I think it was a little bit because it's being West Coast and East Coast, right? For me, it was always around like 2:00 or something like that.
2 or noon.
I think what it was. And so that's 9 a.m. for you. So you actually have to wake up and do the thing. Whereas like I've had 3 hours to acclimate to being in existence.
For sure.
So
yeah,
I definitely say
that's actually a funny contrast, because you're like awake and he's like barely alive.
Right.
Yeah.
That's why I'm the idea guy. And he's like, what are we talking about?
Yeah.
I'm just
I like that.
Sure. We'll do this.
I'm more than happy to set all this stuff up and yap. But as far as thinking about the yapping, I'm good. You can do
I
that.
think you guys need to do a podcast where you guys are freshly awake, and I got home at 12 and went to bed at 1 and then got up at 8. And
Sure.
I'm angry and hateful, Jesse.
Remember when we used to stream
So this
Warzone?
is not normal hateful Jesse.
No, that's extreme hate, Jesse. The one I was describing. I guess this is hateful. I'm not that hateful. I'm just disappointed in the world. But I digress. But what are you saying?
I said, remember when we used to stream Warzone at 6:30 a.m.?
Oh, bro, that shit. But the other problem though is I'd wake up everybody in the house and they'd be all mad at me.
Well, they need to get on. They need to start a morning
thicker
routine as
walls
well.
Is what it is. You need to start using 2x6s instead of 2x4s.
For real. That second house we lived at when we moved to where I live. They were literally paper walls. My poor parents.
Both you and Elias would get online. That I was really impressed.
Bro, we're in a lot. Well, because Warzone was so easily accessible, I guess, for all of us.
Yeah, that is I think as far as gaming goes, that is the biggest obstacle. It's the game has to be really easy for everyone to install and play, and they all have to like it.
You didn't really like Warzone that much, though.
No, but I don't like Overwatch either. I think for me, the most important thing is getting to play with friends. I was always the guy who would play everyone else's game so that I could play with them.
Mm-hmm. Did you see Fortnite just released what's that first person shooter you used to play? Valorant? They released their own dupe of Valorant.
Well, Marvel's done that too with
Overwatch.
Marvel Rivals.
Supposedly it's
better than Overwatch. I've heard people say
it's better, but it's also the game mechanics is nothing is balanced at this moment.
It looks like a cheap knockoff game. I played
people
3
are in
matches.
love with it, though.
Yeah, they're in love with it. Senpai's in love with it. Panda likes it, but not as much as Overwatch. And I played 3 games and I uninstalled it.
I don't
really.
I don't like Overwatch.
I've been playing competitive games since 2015, starting off with Siege. It is just a repeat of the same cycle over and over and over again. I'm not going to subscribe to something with a worse look or worse skin and worse feeling.
Ooh. Just because it's attached to an IP.
Yeah, I'm not that big of a Marvel fan to begin with.
Honestly, I miss the days early 2012, 2013, where I would go to GameStop every day or every week, not every day, and buy a new game every week. Wow. I don't do that anymore. I don't know where I got my money. I wasn't working until 3 years later. What the fuck? What?
Yeah, you use Game Pass now, right?
No, I don't have it anymore. I literally just play Fortnite.
Did your parents get them for you?
I don't know where I got money because literally I didn't have a job till 2015, 2016.
But you also probably didn't spend that much either. Your expenses were lower back then.
That's true, but where did I get anything? Oh, I used to do chores around the house for extra money.
Okay, so you had an allowance.
So you had an allowance.
No, I didn't have an allowance. It'd be Mom, I want money. Can I clean the kitchen? Sure, here's $20.
They're pretty.
That's some good.
What?
I would have to do more than just the kitchen.
Your parents were pretty easygoing about it. And yeah, sure, we'll get you a game.
At a certain point, they finally were yeah, you need to get a job now. You're 20. You gotta get a fucking job.
Makes sense.
And I worked at a corpse.
A corpse?
Are we allowed to say what that was?
Toys R Us.
Toys R Us.
Who are you gonna look up local Toys R Us workers?
Dude,
you know what I mean?
you are one day people will interview you because you're one of the last surviving members of this ancient relic.
I mean, Party City and Big Lots are going to be following too.
I saw that.
You think so?
No, they are.
Announced the
it's
closure
confirmed
of Big Lot or Party City for February.
Wow!
They completely laid off the entire corporate team, and now they're just liquidating the current locations.
Wow. So it sounds like if I want a costume when I get back, I should go to Party
Where are they
City.
gonna have a costume? We're in December. They don't have year-round costumes.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like
Wait, that sounded like a Joe Rogan when he goes,
Really?
oh God, don't compare me to that guy.
Yeah, I hate. It's so weird that I was in love with him. Not in love, but I loved his show. I listened to every podcast for 2016, 2017, 2018.
I listened. It was the only one I listened to at the time, I think.
But I'm glad I'm not a Rogan bro anymore because those guys are kind of embarrassing in some ways.
Well, it's kind of like God, who was the guy that did InfoWars?
Alex Jones. I was never there.
But hear me out. They started out normal and got into
He didn't.
He didn't.
The person that I would say that you were an advocate for, because I remember you coming out here I went to lunch with you and I guess now your ex. I don't know who that was. Yeah, I think it was a girl. You lived with her.
I lived with a woman?
I don't know. You brought a girlfriend out here.
Oh,
you brought a girlfriend out here.
That she is the only one that has ever come out here. So yes.
Okay, so you brought a girlfriend out. We went to Porto's.
Yeah,
we went to Porto's, and you're like,
honestly,
you weren't there. I went to your house after. It was weird. I think you were doing something, but you were like, honestly, I'm a big advocate for Tucker Carlson.
Was it Tucker Carlson?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
You had your Tucker Carlson face, and now he's a Russian asset.
Yeah, he's it's one of those things where I think a lot of men get caught in because it's the reasonable
The right wing sphere.
Right, because you start out with this reasonableness and then it's like, "Oh, I invite you in." And then it's like then you start seeing the patterns, you're like, "This is a little off."
Honestly,
and then you start digging a little bit this is a little bit more off. I need to re-examine my whole
I think
stature
during the first, God, I can't believe I have to say, during the first Trump administration, during that time, because I was yearning for a time where like both political parties were peaceful.
You're yearning, yearning for the minds.
I was yearning for the past. Calm down. I was yearning for like a more peaceful era, so I was looking for the more sensible conservatives. And for a little while there, I kind of was like, oh, maybe Ben Shapiro's like that. And then I just realized, oh no, he's just a right wing grifter that will fucking, because he was like the I'm gonna be tough on Trump conservative for a while. And it's like, no, you're
all of them turned tail and like
they're all putting on an act.
Tail between their legs.
Have you noticed all those motherfuckers like not Tucker, but Ben Shapiro, failed screenwriter, Steven Crowder, failed comedian. Like there's a lot of them were like failed at like a certain different art form, like. And then they just turn to, fuck it, I got to make money somehow. I'm going to become a right-wing grifter, a right-wing fucking pundit.
Yeah. I used to be I will admit, sadly, I was a Ben Shapiro fan for a bit. And then he just started spouting, like just
stupid shit.
Just spouting nonsense. And it was like, well, you had these like, again, it was reasonable at the beginning and then started going off far right into the deep end. Let me go.
That's how those
base myself in acid.
That's how those, what the fuck his name is? The guy that lives in Hungary or whatever.
Andrew Tate.
Yeah. That's essentially what he kind of does in the beginning. Cause he'll say something outrageous that catches your attention. And then you look further and then he's saying like, oh, this, and this. And like, he's saying like different, like, thoughts on life that are kind of reasonable, and you're like, oh, maybe he's not as bad. And then that's how he like gets you into his fucking grips, where he can sell you a stupid course that literally you can look up for free online.
Well, and his whole MO is preying on young men who feel like they're disenfranchised.
Yeah, that's he's. Oh, thank God I didn't fall into like those. I could have easily been a weirdo, like, because he was just like, I was not confident in myself.
There's a lot of people who are in that
wasn't confident in myself. I didn't know how to talk to girls. I didn't know how to approach them. I felt like I wasn't worthy to even, all that stuff.
Yeah.
But then after a while, you're like, oh, that's a me thing. Like I could easily like talk to, like, I'm not a bad looking person. Like,
not everyone.
I'm also very nice. Like it's just an inside thing. But then there's people that are like, no, it's them. They're the reason why I'm not getting successful with women or doing this or that.
It's kind of like what we were talking about earlier before the podcast, Jesse, where we were mentioning, like, am I imposing on the world or is the world imposing on me? And what you're describing is, oh, it's them.
That's what people do. They'll say, the reason why I don't have a girlfriend is because this person or women in general. I could have easily fallen into that because I was a very shy person, but I then realized, no, it's a me thing. Like,
right.
But a lot of people don't have that self-awareness. It is the world's fault. It's not their own.
Their mind.
Yeah. And how do you explain that to someone?
But the problem is that there's also a lot of people that are narcissists that are like, of course it can't be me that is the issue.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, if that would qualify as, I mean, maybe that's narcissism.
Because they're protecting some kind of ego, I would say, sometimes. Yeah.
I think it's also
an unwarranted ego.
I think it's the big thing too is like willingness to have an interest or take interest in their stuff in a sense, right? So like one of my favorite artists is Chapel Roan. And for women, that's like a huge artist for them. And so you have that connectivity and whatnot. Alex and I have a shared favorite artist like Lady Gaga and such. And so having those other interests as well, it's like when I try to coach or advise with students or people, what are you doing to put yourself in that situation where there's success? Are you putting yourself to have to meet people? And it gets harder when you get older. It just really does, because in schooling and whatnot, it's forced. All right, you got to go to school. You got to be in this classroom from like.
I mean, it's even harder now because look how many people work from home.
Exactly. And so, are you going out into your community and like doing the things that bring you joy in a sense? And I think that is a big contributor for like when we're talking about like meeting women or meeting your significant other. Are you putting yourself in those situations to meet said person?
Yeah.
So,
Or also if you're open to it.
And like open too.
Looking back, like into my early 20s, like, okay, I had moments where I could have easily, like, there was a girl showing interest. There's girls showing interest. But I was also in this weird mindset where I'm like, I'm a very big guy and I don't want to, like, misread someone's, maybe they just want to be friends and I misread it as them wanting to have something further, and then I misread it, make things feel weird, make them feel weird, and it's like that was always my mind, like, don't even bother trying because I don't want to make people uncomfortable just in case I did misread something.
And that's like honest and what's the right word I'm looking for? It's a great skill that most, I would say, men in general don't do sometimes.
Well, because most men are just like, I'm gonna throw every fucking every line out there and try to catch as many fish.
Yeah, and if they reject me, it's like, well, it's like they're losing a game. They're not really thinking about the interpersonal aspect of it. It's just like, oh, I'll get them next time. You know?
I kind of don't like that because like you said, like you're making it like I'll catch a fish eventually. Like, no, they're a human being. You know,
it's a very oversimplified way of looking at it.
And like it's weird because the relationships I have been in, like, it took forever to actually get into it, and I was like wanted to be friends first, and then when it became like, oh, they might be interested, I threw out my own hints, like, oh yeah, I'm the type that I'd need the girl to like make the actual first move into something beyond, like, just I let them know like that is what it is, and then they do, because I'm afraid of misreading situations and
because there's social anxiety
and making especially people feel uncomfortable,
right? And I would say I think with men, that's like a lost, because you're raised like you got to go pick up the chick and such. And I've never been that person.
I think
it's
a lot nicer when they put the moves first, to be honest.
Well, it's less, there's less ambiguity. It's the classic case of friendliness does not mean companionship, or kindness does not mean I want to be in your pants.
Yeah.
And so and that's where, like, I could see for women, that could be a little off-putting. Like, I'm not even going to be nice because men are going to misinterpret this as, oh, you're on. We're good.
The weird thing, though, was I noticed after when I was at work, after one of my relationships had ended, because where I work, it becomes like the entire fucking places, like the entire place knows business, but after that, for some reason, like, everyone came out to work like knocking on the door type thing, and I was just like, I am not in a place to actually entertain any of this.
It's blood in the water, they call it, right?
Yeah, I guess, bro. What the hell, bro?
It happens. I've had that happen to me,
but it worked out because from people being interested, I end up with my current girlfriend.
Yeah, so it's amazing. I don't know if you have anything to share, Rome, about the subject matter at all.
I just have to remember that sometimes I get really hard on myself when it comes to, well, to go to your previous point about approaching. So I would say that as I was getting older, maybe 17, 18, I started to be more confident about talking to someone, even if it was just
compared to both of us. I think you were killing it back then.
But there was a certain point, and I think it was around 2016 and around the whole like Me Too thing, I became irrationally afraid of
to make any move.
Yes, any move at all, unless there is like bright flashing signs in front of my face to indicate that they're interested. I was like, oh, I'm not.
That's why. That's why you just be friends with them, and then if it seems like they're starting to go that way, you throw that hint out. Like, I
exactly.
Just feel like,
yeah.
Honestly, like, I need a girl to be like, yeah, I definitely want to be like. If you throw that hint and then they take it, then it's like, okay.
And I know there are some girls who don't like that, and they're like, they want you to approach. They think of you
like a punk fucking asshole, like. But it's just like we live in a world where there's a lot of fucking shithead guys. Yeah, I'm cussing a lot. I apologize. A lot of shithead guys, and I don't want to be one of them. So that's why I rather the girl make the move. If
it's more clear that way.
If a girl or a guy wants to call me a pussy for that, it's fine. I'd rather
I'm
I'd
whatever.
rather be
Who
called
cares?
that
Yeah.
than be called the other thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. There's a lot of things you touched on there, right? It's you don't want to enter. It's like the over consideration of kindness, and so it's like you don't want to ever make someone feel uncomfortable. And for what I've found is, in terms of success, is when you just point out blank, like, hey, this is what we're going, this is where I'm at, this is what I'm doing. And sometimes they're not receptive to that. I've had like, oh yeah, sure.
Oh, you just
and
make
then
the
you're like,
workplace really
well,
weird.
how else am I supposed to say it? Like, in terms of, this is where I'm at. We're on a date. I just want to have a good time and see if we vibe. That is it. Beyond that is a plus. That is it. And so I have found success in that when it comes to seeking out others and dating and such. And a lot of the times it depends on the person on the other end. Some women want to be picked up at the bar, but the problem is, do you want to gamble or not? And a lot of the time, from what I'm getting,
do you want to put yourself in this situation where you're being picked up by some weirdo at a bar that might be a fucking serial killer? Like, bro, like I don't. Maybe when I was like when I first lived away from my parents, I was into, let's go to parties, let's go to clubs, bars, and now I'd rather just be at home playing video games or watching TV.
Right.
I don't know.
No,
I think there's a lot of lost souls looking for validation at bars and shit.
Or community in a sense.
And that's not to say like, oh, occasionally we'll go out to a club or a bar, but I don't want to be the person that is there every weekend or every few days.
I mean, I'm definitely looking for the validation, but it's not at the bar.
He's gonna go back to church.
Take me to church.
Girl.
Well, I just like I feel like my whole life is about trying to do as much good work as possible and stuff that I enjoy, and going out and repeating that same cycle over and over where I feel like crap just doesn't seem to move in that direction.
My worry for you is that, like we said, you were more successful than us in your late teens, early 20s, and the people that you're dating then are really fucked up people because they don't know who they are, and they're probably hurting people, and I feel like that maybe scarred you and has led you to just avoid it now because of how much they can hurt you.
But I'm also not in the same position because back then when you're in school, you're surrounded by all sorts of potential partners, right? Or if you're in the right job, like in your case, you're in the right position to meet people. That hasn't happened in a while, you know? The only time really there's a chance is if I actually put in the effort to getting on set, because those are like-minded people. They're generally my age. So that, you know, that helps a lot. And it's less that I don't want to, but because haven't really put myself in a position, I'm like, I'm not going to worry about it.
I want to remind the audience when he means set, Alex is a porn star. So
oh my God.
Right. I should have specified that from the get-go.
Oh my goodness.
The Obee Won family will love that one.
Oh yeah.
Most definitely.
I say you should just bleep it out so it's just very obvious that I said
I think
the name.
Anyone I talk to who is not like in film or like in that world, they immediately assume it's like, oh, you're working in porn.
When you talk about set, you're like, you're about.
Do you have
right for what we need for this project?
Do you have an OnlyFans?
No.
Oh no.
I feel like if I had an OnlyFans, I would just knit on it, like
knit,
become a knitter or crochet and just be
I
there.
did not understand what.
But why
meant.
do that on? There's lots of platforms.
The weird thing is, OnlyFans did kind of start out as like an artist place.
Yep, it used to be the Pinterest.
Yeah, but
now it's just
no.
porn studios.
I mean, who like if you have an established following elsewhere and then you tell them you have an OnlyFans for something they know you for, then that makes sense. They'll go subscribe to your OnlyFans for really that good. But you're gonna lead off with that?
I just go off the off-beaten path. That's always what I've done.
Hey.
I love that. Like so many people think, like, oh, I'll just do an OnlyFans, and it's like the end all be all to get money. But then imagine most of those people fail because they don't get any traction. Imagine now it's like your last hope was OnlyFans, and even that didn't work out.
That's
Well, it's
not-
kind of like it's like, oh, I could just do an OnlyFans. Oh, I could just do a podcast.
Yeah,
Right?
Yeah,
those
but
are all
this
way
wasn't
harder than you
started
think.
with the thought that we're gonna become millionaires. I think we just want to get some bullshit out of our head.
Which is also the key. One of the key reasons why it has lasted is because it's not like, oh, dude, how come episode 1 hasn't popped off? You know, we just show up and do the work regardless of if anyone listens.
Yep. We're just here. If y'all want to listen, great. If y'all want to listen, great.
And if you don't want to listen, I'll go back and listen to myself.
Exact. I'm gonna hire some bots to pump the views.
Yeah, I had a good thought on that. Ooh, good opinion. Ooh,
Exactly.
that was Alex.
That's
He
my
listens
thought
back.
process every time I'm going back and editing.
God, you're so smart. You're so smart.
Remember that validation thing we said earlier?
That's what happens.
Oh, let's see the podcast. Yeah, that was a great thought. Why aren't these masses listening to
How
me?
am I so smart? It's crazy.
Let me stroke this ego
what?
and increase my narcissism points.
I thought you were gonna say something else when you started with "Let me stroke this."
I mean, it's one and the same.
Oh my god, fellas!
The Obee Won family are gonna just don't let her listen to episode 10.
No, I would prefer to see a live video reaction to listening.
Okay, everybody,
to this.
let's start discussing our first sexual experiences.
No,
my
God,
God.
no.
Okay, did you have
Absolutely
a
not.
follow-up point you wanted to continue with?
In terms of, you hopped around a bit. I thought it was interesting that we mentioned for like doing the podcast, the accountability, and you mentioned like in terms of gaming, the accessibility of gaming. That's why you do games, and I was just trying to think of a way of how those two are kind of connected a little bit, and I just had it and I lost it.
Wait, the connection between gaming and podcasting?
Because you have the accountability part. I was seeing if there was a synthesis of the two of why, like the continuous of nature and why they were successful. Because you woke up at 6 a.m.
To play video games?
stream.
Oh, yeah.
And for our podcast, we do it every Sunday. Early-ish. And you have that accountability. I was trying to see if there's like any other like patterns that matched in terms of that.
I mean all of this stuff that the equipment, I mean, you know, you guys can't see it if you're listening, and you can't see if you're watching either because it's all out of frame, but all of this equipment is for the podcast, you know, or I'm sorry, it's all for the live stream. Mm-hmm. And it was 4 years of just becoming really enthusiastic about the tech and then studying how YouTubers become successful. Granted, I haven't really been able to replicate that, but I can tell you in theory how it works.
You should become a coach. Imagine you turn like 1 million people into like rich, famous YouTubers.
Yeah.
Obee Won's knitting channel.
Knitting channel on OnlyFans.
So I think the fact that during the pandemic and throughout the course leading up to now, I would go live every day. Some days I didn't want to. Some days I was excited to. Some streams had 0 viewers. Some had 20 or 30. I think the most is 30 at one point. Right. And so just having that training in my bones has like made a big difference. And when you had the idea for this, I was like, okay, I could probably apply all that stuff.
Makes sense.
I think Alex should get into gambling streaming.
Yeah, maybe.
You remember that video I showed you, that one guy? Like Boss Man Jack or
Yeah.
something? Bro, he got arrested.
For what, the
Hitting his mom.
30th time? Oh, man.
That guy is a piece of work.
He really is, especially
I don't know
considering
who this is. You have to give more context if you're going to mention
he's
to
an
our
online
audience.
streamer that literally just streams himself gambling.
Gambling what? Like, are we playing blackjack? Are we playing online
Everything.
poker?
Online
Interesting.
slots, everything.
Interesting.
On those like online casinos. And
he streams on Kick, right?
he has like the worst luck ever, obviously, because it's gambling. So what other luck are you going to have?
Well, it
but
depends
bad
on,
luck?
I would say the best luck that you have is if you're a good Texas Hold'em player, but if you're just doing slots.
And there's methods for blackjack. I know all that. Believe
well, like
me,
blackjack's like...
I'm
blackjack.
pausing gambling for a while.
Oh, good for you.
I mean, because I went in December.
I was going to
It went
chastise
bad again.
I was going
Ooh.
to chastise you about that.
Like, I mean,
Publicly
go for it, because like honestly,
Shame.
This 2024 was a year of me being a degenerate gambler for a few times.
There's
It's
only
fine.
two things I would ever chat. First, I want to compliment you on your quickness of humor. The only two things I would chastise you for are the gambling and the staying on your damn phone all the time.
Actually,
Doom scrolling.
There would be three things. It's also because I don't go to any health experts ever.
Oh,
you hate me for that.
yeah.
I haven't been to it.
So you're like the typical man in that aspect.
Also, I know it sounds weird. but
My toe's a little brown and like decaying, but it's fine.
my mouth hurts extremely sometimes, and I need to go to a dentist.
Like your teeth.
Homie, you probably got TMJ.
I finally have dental coverage officially in January because I got promoted into a semi-respectable job. So I'm gonna go.
Please.
But are you gonna get a general checkup, blood work, all that stuff? You know, everything else.
I haven't been to a doctor since when I got my physical for baseball in 2012. The silence.
So
is
the
deafening.
silence and the looks that were had between Rome and I are like, sir, what?
This has turned into an intervention.
That's
We don't have to do
what you guys need to realize is you're chastising a minority in my culture.
Oh my God!
It's a couple white people chastising a Mexican man.
God! Get
No,
out
but that's
of here,
a real
Jesse.
thing, though. You ask because I am half Mexican. I look white, but I'm half Mexican, and there's a big community.
As soon as we started talking about health, drops this. God,
there's a big community
because we care.
There's a big amount of Mexican people that are just like, okay, I feel sick. I'll feel better eventually, and I'm going to work.
It's a culture.
But that's also like men in general too.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah, honestly, men will just like kind of like bite their teeth and be like, "Oh, I need to go to work or else my family's going to starve."
Right.
And now I'm going to drop dead at 60. But then again, I let my kids and wife live pretty comfortably.
Right. And to me, why not? ¿Por qué no los dos, huh? Why not both?
I'm kind of worried I'm heading down I'm going to grit my teeth and make sure my family...
You have coverage in January. Just set up an appointment. Yeah. One of the days off you have, that's during the week, you just go, you do your doctor thing.
Well, luckily coming up, we're going to have more days off, but we'll leave it at that.
And once you get there, and I can understand the anxiety behind it because it's like, oh, I haven't been since whatever year.
I haven't been to a doc. This is going to sound disgusting, but I'll just be very honest. I haven't been to a doctor since 2012. I've been a dentist since 2010.
So, fair enough.
So
but what I'm saying is...
or anything.
I mean, I brush my teeth and shit.
Yeah, but that doesn't...
It doesn't count as much, I know.
It doesn't get everything.
So, I have clear issues with my teeth. Like,
But anyway,
this
doesn't need
part
to be...
of my teeth off.
This doesn't need to be like a shame Jesse
no.
in terms of health. But what I'm saying is I can understand the anxiety of going because you're just like, what am I going to discover that's going to be bad?
Even when I had coverage with my, like, for example, perfect example, when I worked at Toys R Us one season, after being around all those people during flu season, I somehow got, it was an infection of nose, self-diagnosed obviously, but a nose, throat, ear. I felt like I was going to fucking die. And I didn't go to urgent care. I didn't go to a doctor. I just thugged it out until it was gone.
That's wild.
And I was in pain. It wasn't like that, that bullshit they say, like man flu or whatever. It wasn't any of that. It was legit like, oh, even though they did tell me that. Damn, that kind of annoyed me. I saw my coworkers, one of my female coworkers told me, "Oh, you have man flu." No, I have
What's man flu?
They just make fun of guys because guys can't, like if they get the flu, it affects them more. But then I looked it up. Apparently, like common flu, like common ailments, like the flu, apparently for some reason affect men's bodies worse than they do women's bodies. Like they did a study on it, and I'm just like, oh, so like you're just shaming someone for like.
For being having certain genes.
Yeah, basically.
Having certain characteristics.
But being a narcissist,
right?
She was just like, you guys are just being sensitive. Like, no, like...
Is it okay for a man to be sensitive?
That's the thing.
I think so. I think so.
I don't even ask that question anymore. It sounds nonsensical.
Part of the problem is you'll hear a lot of times you'll hear the same one be like, I just wish you would open up more and you'd like just include me more in your life about how you
It's
feel.
the
And then when you release it, it's like, oh, I didn't need to hear all that.
Well, they're just repeating stuff that they've heard
I
that
think-
sounds nice.
And also, I'm not saying my current girlfriend's pretty good about me actually being able to state how I feel. She's really good. I'm not saying her, but like other people
Yeah,
in the past, I would
yeah,
say.
they're just repeating things and they don't know what it means.
There's a lot of people that want to rail against like gender norms, but then kind of go back to gender norms when it's convenient for them.
It's the I want to eat cake in yours too, in a sense, whatever that saying is.
Wait, it's
You can't
let's-
have your cake and eat it. Yeah.
let there be cake.
What is
Let
this?
them
What is
them
this?
eat
The
cake.
French Revolution?
I'm hungry, bro.
I mean, well, this podcast is not probably going to be up to date by the time people hear it as to what's happening right now. But that's we had like a French Revolution moment happen at the beginning of the month.
Right. It's very interesting because I've talked about with my folks, and it's a very scary time because historically we have the setup for something big.
Yeah.
The setup is there more so than any time that I can have seen historically.
I mean,
Because there's wealth disparity,
Major.
incompetent leadership.
People are looking for answers to solve the disparity wherever it may be, and that is what is concerning.
I mean,
By
like
any means
2020
necessary.
Kind of, 2020
Mhm.
kind of, because I remember, maybe I was naive, but I remember growing up feeling like, okay, people had some kind of grasp on what was going on. There was some kind of responsibility when major shit happened. In 2020, I was just like, nobody knows anything about anything. There's
I think
propaganda
there's
and just
extreme-
misinformation being spread every day.
And there's extreme individualism in the United States instead of like community based, where it's like, I don't care what my neighbors. There's not that neighborhood aspect. I experienced it a little bit in Rochester in terms of the community part, but it seems like in general, there's not a community aspect place because we've thrown out those institutions that used to build those communities. Church, for example, right? For better, or for worse. And so where are we getting our community?
I mean, there really isn't any community.
I think there is good community, but
I think you create. That's the problem, though. You create your own community that is completely made up of what you already believe. Whereas, like, if you went to like the town center, you might be met with some guy that's super liberal or super conservative, and you have like a community
or super religious or non-religious.
Yeah, you have people that are able to live together, but I think now we just put ourselves in these weird bubbles with our online decisions.
Everything is very fragmented now. I mean, it's the same with the democratization of creating content. Like, I don't have to go to a production company to make this sort of thing. I don't have to subscribe. Not everyone is watching SpongeBob anymore or watching the same, the same 3 TV shows. I remember when we only had like, how many channels was it at the time? We all watched the same thing.
I mean, if you ask our parents, they had 5 channels, but then us, we had like 100 channels. Now we have like 500 channels plus online stuff plus creator content made by people
I could
that
just
aren't a
never
production company.
watch TV again. I could just watch my favorite streamer all day, and that
that's-
community is
the thing
it.
is, what I laugh at is we have so many streaming channels. We're gonna eventually have some company that bundles them all together.
That's been my
and it's
idea.
gonna become-
Don't you dare say that out loud.
I've been talking about this since like 2014, bro.
It was ahead of the game.
Because
it's going to be cable.
it's going to be a new cable. It's just, I can get a cable that has Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, all these different.
We should figure out a way to do this, Jesse, before everybody else, so that we can be.
Yeah,
the
but then
proprietors.
some rich person that wants to do it's just going to off us.
And then we'll just
Either that, or we become super rich and become CEOs, and somebody wants to off us for that.
Oh, that's what I was going to say.
no winning.
We could just hire Luigi through the CIA.
Oh, yeah.
Oh man.
Again, that is 100% opinion. That is not based in fact. It was all for the bit that we just mentioned.
So going back to what
I
you
don't
said,
think anybody cares about what we have to say, but
I just want to just put that out there just in case, friend.
you're talking about community, and I have to say it was a major shock when I went to New York City for the first time because everyone was super personable, friend, like wanted to start a conversation, which is completely the opposite.
Which is interesting in New York City because New York City has a reputation of being like, what are you doing here?
Cold.
Get out.
Did not experience that at all.
Do you know
That's
why?
amazing.
Do you know
I love
what
that
I
for
hate?
you.
What I actually hate is because I know the reputation for LA or Southern California in general is like, oh, it's a bunch of like stuck up people. There's no community. There's no real culture.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, you went to the fucking tourist traps and thought you were going to find community. There are plenty of there's plenty of places all over Southern California that's made up of like a bunch of different people that have actual culture or like good culture. Like you can get the best Mexican food here. There's good like Chinese food, Japanese food. Like there's culture and there's community here. But anybody that says, oh, California, are going and thinking about tourist traps.
Well, if you are looking for it in the movie industry, you can find it. Like one of my best friends is there, but you're gonna have a hard time because there are a lot of people who are stuck up and think they're the next.
Yeah, but that's
thing.
the people you associate. Like if you're a working class person in LA, you'll find plenty. I mean, this is a good example. It's something I would never do, but like I had people at Toys R Us that I worked with that lived in like Bell Gardens. And I guess I forget what they call it. It's like almost like a neighborhood savings program where every single person in the neighborhood puts money into a fucking pot. And whenever something fucked up happens to someone, they go to the pot. Hey, this is what happened. Okay, here's the money. That's more
sounds
Hispanic.
like communism.
It's like I guess, but it's not government mandated. It's just like
that's
awesome.
I mean, paintball. Those are some of the nicest guys I've ever.
And when she told me that, I was like, "Fuck that! I ain't giving you no money."
Oh my gosh,
that's a lie because I'm pretty charitable with some people.
For sure. I think we've talked a lot today. I don't know what our timing is.
We're an hour in.
Okay. So I think we've talked about a lot. We sprinkled in how we got to this point. Hopefully some of our listeners can sift through and figure out where the best parts are.
If any of it actually made sense,
they'll get it.
It's fine.
Yeah,
but I think the big takeaway I'm taking from this 10th episode is that
doing it live in person is way better than doing it on the phone.
Sure.
It's also way more work too. But I like doing that. I like setting up for it.
But I think my biggest takeaway is that we're excited to see each other. We haven't seen each other in person for a whole year.
I'm hungry and we need to go find food somewhere.
Oh my goodness,
yeah, and we're gonna play. We're gonna go to the park.
Did you have a Costco hot dog right before this?
Possibly.
Bro, come on. We talked about getting food.
I can eat twice.
You're okay, good, because you're sounding like Stemler right now. Where we're trying to come up with.
We're all making plans, and then the chicken comes out of the freezer for one person.
I think we may have told this on the podcast. Dumb motherfucker decided that he was gonna. Sorry, Stemler, if you ever hear this, I love you, but what the fuck were you thinking? We're literally talking about getting food. You start making chicken.
It's okay. Keep going.
So, but anyway. We gotta sum this up, Jesse. But that's what I'm gonna take it as, is that this is what happens when you meet during the holidays and you reconnect with people that you haven't for a long time. You start off with one conversation, one plan, and it ends wherever it ends. Obee-Won, I'm Obee-Won. Jesse.
I'm Jesse.
And Rome, who is answering the door at this moment. Signing off.
Didn't they know?
Y'all have a wonderful holiday season. Take care and enjoy.
Bye.
Thank you so much for tuning in. Peace. See you in the next one.
Who was that?